right, it's Thursday night football tonight, Eagles and Giants. We are going to do a little screen share of what our model has for Thursday night football, and then we can unveil our TNF same game parlay as well. Eagles minus 7.5 was the spread, the total at 40.5. And it looks like our model is projecting right around those lines. Pretty accurate line this week from our odds makers here, Dave.
Yeah, basically a coin flip on both the spread and the total, which is pretty rare. Usually we see it on maybe one of those. Understandable. We know the NFL are very sharp lines. So not always uncommon to see the model pretty much sitting along that range. And you get the juice on the spread or the either side of the over-under. So you're never going to truly see 50-50 reflected in the odds on the books. But we have both of them tonight. Kind of feels like a classic divisional clash, which it seems like we're getting just about every Thursday night this week in the NFL, which is maybe for better or worse. It's kind of led to, I think, more interesting games on what has kind of traditionally been a dud of a night. So we're getting at least interesting games, ones where teams don't particularly have fondness for one another. But on this one, it's looking like a total toss-up as far as the under or the total and the spread are concerned. If you look at the money line, very favorable for the Eagles, 77%, minus 370 odds. That's no surprise there. So combined 3 and 7 to the under for these teams probably makes you feel like the under's in play here. The Giants, I think, are going to have some trouble scoring in this game. They kind of thought they were looking like they're going to crown the second coming of Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith the other day with Scadaboo and Jackson Dart, only to come straight back down to earth and lose to the Saints, giving them up their first win of the year. Just not really a team that inspires a lot of confidence in any skill player, especially with Malik Neighbors out. And this is probably the worst team the Eagles have played all year. And on the flip side of that, probably the best team the Giants have played. Logic would kind of tell you a blowout here. A get-right game for the Eagles after another disappointing second half against the Broncos, which ultimately led to a loss, their first of the season. So my gut is definitely telling me this is all Eagles all the time tonight. What that actually holds, we're not gonna know till game time. No real value, so to speak, on any game line here. Giants money line. 23% probability, but a negative edge. So no value in backing the upset in what doesn't really feel like a plausible upset. And like we said, 50% on the spread and total. So I'm probably more comfortable fading those markets, looking at prop bets in this game, trying to find a couple alternate lines with some plus money. There are some angles I like, which I think we'll get into pretty quickly. But overall, on the game lines, this is just not a very appealing game to bet on. And I think we're seeing that justified by the model here.
Yep. It's a scary number too. You always hear me talk about key numbers. 7.5 is an absolute, I don't want to touch it number. I mean, you could convince me that if you want to back the Giants, that catching a full touchdown is favorable, but you just laid out all the reasons for it to be uneasy. With the rookie quarterback, running back duo, as fun as they are, this is a big test. The Super Bowl champions on a primetime game. It's a big moment. I don't think we have enough data on who those guys are. So, I see 50-50 splits on both the spread and the total here. Anytime I see that, that's usually a great indicator of stay away for me. Maybe look for some live value opportunity if one team jumps out to an early lead, especially if the Giants were able to jump out with an early lead. I might look to live bet Philly, depending on what happens with the live line there. But yeah, pregame, nothing for me. You mentioned you've got some betting angles to take a closer look at. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one's probably just what is this Eagles offensive identity? It kind of seems like it changes week to week, weeks without very much passing volume. They tried to correct that this past week with Hurts throwing almost 40 passing attempts, resulted in 17 points, their lowest output of the season, and a loss. I think A.J. Brown only brought in a handful of his 9 targets for very hollow yards. At the same time, Hurts has had under 25 passing attempts in 2 weeks. He's throwing for a career low 6.4 yards per attempt. So even when they are passing, It's not down the field. They're not pushing the ball. They're not going for the big play. It's really weird, honestly. This team is pretty stacked with all this receiving talent between A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, who's certainly a top 10 tight end in the game. And yet they just can't seem to get the ball rolling the way they were last year. Saquon Barkley hasn't quite had his breakout games. Seems like he was having one every other week last season. And the second half has just plagued this team all year long. They've scored once in the second half in 3 separate games, scoreless in the fourth quarter in all 3 of those games. Not good when you're trying to close games out, when you're trying to put the nail in the coffin against better teams, and probably going to be a problem come the postseason. So this Eagles team is just really searching for their offensive identity here. I don't know if we're going to see it tonight, given the short week and the quick turnaround. Frankly, I think this is just going to be a let Saquon run loose game. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and possibly some betting angles to exploit there, even though he's going to clearly be a very favorite player and high bet. We could probably find some unique angles on him given the competition that they're going to have in the Giants. So, excuse me. It's going to be interesting to see how they actually deploy Jalen Hurts tonight, because their attempt to grease the squeaky wheel with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith just did not work out last week, and they're probably only going to get more disgruntled as time goes on.
Yeah, the more I think about this as we talk through it, to your point, last week there was like a pretty clear let's get certain guys involved game. And for lack of a better way to term this, I don't know how much I'm allowed to swear on this program, but it bit them in the ass, right? So the more I talk about this, I don't know if there is like an angle I could see with this game. It might be a full-blown no nonsense, we're pissed off Philadelphia performance, which I think would lean heavily into Saquon Barkley and would result in our first huge Saquon game of the season. But I don't know, man. It's hard with a team with this many weapons. It really is, because they have so many different ways they can beat you. Betting player props with the Eagles is like my least favorite team to bet player props with.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Both of them are projected for under 70 yards in this game. The Giants haven't allowed multiple 70-yard receivers in any game except against the Cowboys. One of those was a tight end, and they're allowing 40 points in that game. I don't think we're going to see that again tonight. Giants have been way more of a run funnel as well, with 140 rushing yards per game. It really does feel like the logic is just going to be let's smash mouth this game, give the ball to Saquon, let him tear it up on his former turf, try to just get through this week. You get a head start to everybody else, so you can just cross this one off the calendar, move forward, try and figure out what this team's offensive identity is moving forward, because you're going to have to find an efficient passing game down the stretch. But yeah, like we said, I just don't think it's going to happen tonight. Certainly feels like the Saquon game. And as we mentioned, he's back in MetLife for the second time in his Eagles career. Projects as clearly the top runner in this game with 88 rushing yards, about 20 yards in the passing game. But like we said, we're still waiting for that huge Saquon game. He had 11 games with 100 rushing yards in 2024. He has 0 this season. He has 3 games with less than 50 rushing yards this season. He had 1 such game in 2024. He has not hit 100 total yards yet, meaning 5 games without the century mark, and he only had 3 of those in 2024. It's just not the Saquon we saw last year. Is it because he's tired from carrying the Eagles last season? Maybe it was a good thing Jalen Hurts vultured him for all those tush pushes at the goal line, because he might be running for even lower than his career low yards per carry of 3.2 right now. 5.8 last year. That was 3.9 and 4.4 in his last 2 seasons with the Giants. It's just not what we expect from Saquon. And it's I don't know if you're concerned yet, but if we don't see it maybe tonight, especially against the Giants in a blow up spot against their rushing defense, allowing over 140 yards per game, maybe it is time to start worrying about what his actual output can be this year, and if we're seeing more than just an average regression to the mean.
I look at that game last year when it was his first game back in MetLife, and I believe it was his second highest regular season rushing total in terms of yardage. Now, it wasn't like they were force feeding him the ball. That's the one precautionary thing here. He only had 17 carries in that game. That was actually near the very low end of the spectrum.
Yep.
It was a 28-3 win. So it was much more about just success, breaking big plays. He averaged 10 yards a carry in that game. But I don't know. You could make the argument to me that Saquon does care about being back in this facility. And if there was a time for him to get back alive, it would be tonight. So I do think that's probably my only add to the card as we talk through this. Is going to be a couple different Saquon Barkley variations. I'm sure if you're looking to ladder Saquon anything, whether that's touches, yards, good luck. You're going to have some pretty nuked numbers there already, given that he is the most talented running back in the league. But it might be even a look like, I wonder, let me look at this live. What are the Saquon Barkley 2 touchdown odds?
I actually got that in the notes because it's part of, slight teaser here. We have him to score a touchdown in the parlay. So I looked at that just for some comparison. Plus 340, plus 350. So kind of respectable. We got him at 20% to do that. So pretty much right on.
That
I will
seems
say one way. Yeah, it does, honestly. I'm almost surprised it's not shorter. I mean, this is a guy who was 240, 250, minus 240, 250 to score an anytime touchdown last season. So yeah, it's probably an appropriate price. If you're looking for the blow up game, 2 touchdowns from Saquon is probably a pretty good bet. I will say I played him for first quarter receiving yards earlier today. It's recently become one of my favorite markets to bet. I hit a nice ladder with McCaffrey last Thursday, with Kincaid on Sunday, pretty much just targeting guys that we like in our parlays to get their looks early on. Saquon is plus money for 5 first quarter receiving yards tonight. It's like plus 118. So that's one catch realistically, and he could take one to the house and cash this in one play. So I played him 5, 10, and 15. I'll probably look for 20, 25 for some smaller units. They didn't have those on FanDuel when I looked, but yeah, it's a Saquon game for me. Pretty much the only thing I'll be touching from an Eagles perspective tonight, except for touchdown jackpot, which real quick we talk about. I'd probably lean tight end in this one. I usually do. So I think a Dallas Goedert. It's just kind of hard for me to envision it not being one of the big guys here to get the first touchdown, last touchdown. Blind dart throw if you're picking a giant, really. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo feel like the guy if they can even get close to the goal line. But like we said, we think this is going to be pretty one-sided and pretty much throwing at the wall and hoping it sticks if you're picking a giant in this game, though you'll surely get a huge jackpot if he hits.
Yeah. I always trust you to guide me on the jackpot touchdown plays. I feel like, I don't know, you're always looking for somebody who's at least in the mid tier, if not further down the list, to try to make it worth it. But yeah, I think looking outside of Philly's big names, Goddard seems like the one constant in terms of red zone threat. So that would probably be my ideal play there as well. Okay. Anything else before we get to our same game parlay here? I think you and I have officially decided we're betting Saquon in various ways, but anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, we're all aligned there from the Eagles. It's just one real quick angle for the Giants here. Probably the only one of note, to be honest, is Tyrone Tracy is going to be back. So what this means for Cam Scatterbo in the backfield, we don't really know. The model does project him to still lead 52 yards, 43% anytime TD probability, or 50 yards, 42%, compared to Tyrone Tracy, just 25 yards and 18% to score. Even Dart projects higher than Tracy in both those markets. Scatterboo really hasn't lived up to his Chiefs game breakout since then. He's gotten the looks, and it just isn't really materialized. Now he's going to take a hit to his volume, almost definitely, even more so than he was already with Jackson Dart under center. Got to expect he's still the goal line guy because of his, truck you, head down style of running. But, it's you got value on him to score 2+ touchdowns here and one, which is appropriate, I think. But, look at his odds. He's already, pushing past plus 150 when we were seeing him at even money and even, I think, minus 105 last week. So, wouldn't be thrilled if you got him in fantasy. Probably be pretty hesitant to start him, and it just might look like this is back to a committee, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be careful with Scatterboot tonight, and I come to you as one of the biggest Scatterboot guys there is. But he's definitely emerged. He's been good. He hasn't exactly found his huge breakout game moment yet that some people expected with Tracy out the last couple weeks, and I don't know. This feels like one of those things, even if the Giants love Scatterboot, if Tracy is back, expect him to be involved in the passing game. Just one of those games where if you have Scatterboot in fantasy and you're like, he's the guy now, you're looking back like, damn, this is still a total committee approach if Tracy's healthy. So yeah, for me, I'm totally off all things Giants in this game. I'm just solely focused on Saquon and then trying to capitalize on some of those jackpot plays. With that said, let's turn to our same game parlay for Thursday Night Football.
Thursday Night Lotto.
All right. Eagles-Giants, NFC East clash. Let's pull this bad boy up here. What do we got? Where is it? There it is. Giants versus Eagles, Thursday Night Football. Going to start off with Scott over 33.5 receiving yards. We project him for 39.8. Normal games, he's got to hit this no problem. He does have 2 unders this year. One of them is a hook, and he caught 1 ball for 33 yards. And then last week where he had 9 targets but brought in just 3 of those. Both of those feel pretty anomalous to his usual production, and the model's got him at 39.8 yards in this game. He's got almost as many receptions as the disgruntled A.J. Brown, 1 fewer game, 4 touchdowns. He's a big target in key situations. If you're concerned about the half yard, you can take him for 30+ for a little worse odds. Next, we got Saquon. We're going to take him over 16.5 receiving yards. Saquon has 3 targets in all but 1 game, at least 3 targets, actually. He's caught all but 2 targets thrown his way, all gone under this number just twice, but he crushed it in the other 3 games with 24, 30, and 58 yards, including a 47-yard catch and run in this past game versus the Broncos. Giants are allowing nearly 5 receptions out of the backfield per game. And as mentioned, we know Saquon can do this on a single play, and he might only need 1 to do so, but he might have plenty of opportunities because the Giants have the 8th best pass rush win rate. So hopefully a few more dump offs from Jalen Hurts. And play Saquon's receptions. He's actually hit that more consistently at 3+, only 1 game with 2 receptions. But we project him for 2.4, so the model is more in line with his yards prop at 19.8 yards. And as mentioned, I'm personally playing his first quarter receiving ladder and hoping that we get this early. And finally, same man, anytime touchdown. He could take it to the house. Who knows? Maybe on the first drive of the game. Very straightforward here. He's our top projected scorer in this game at 55.1%, even over Jalen Hurts. He's at nearly 20% to score 2+ touchdowns, as we mentioned. And honestly, this looks like a first quarter cash to me. Single Eagles drive here, couple dump offs to Dallas Goedert over the middle. Saquon gets in the red zone. He takes 1 and scores. So that would be pretty nice here. You got plus 375 odds on the whole thing. You can boost it or play it with a no sweat at DraftKings. They have a promo giving you your choice of those 2. I played it with the boost, so getting it at a little over plus 500 here. Good bet. Hopefully we cash here. We did last Thursday. Very nearly did on Sunday Night Football. So we're hopefully catching some rhythm here and go back-to-back on Thursday night in Week 6.
I love when, as we talk through these games, the angle we end up landing on is also reflected in some of our action for the week. And I'm glad to see Saquon twice on here because it's the only thing I feel good about in this game.
Right.
I'm also looking to, I think I mentioned the latter numbers would be nuked if you were looking to do something fun with Saquon on a Thursday night. I think the angle there would be receiving, as you allude to here, because you can get Saquon Barkley 3 or more receptions at plus money. He's done that in 4 of 5 games this year. He's plus 250 to record 4 receptions. He's done that 3 times already this year. He had one 58-yard receiving game. You're getting over 6-1 to bet him 50 plus receiving yards. So, yeah, I think if there is a way to actually find some value, it would be laddering the receiving yards. That's reflected in Dave's whole over here as well that he spoke to. So you've convinced me. I'm tailing our same game parlay. I'm also putting a tiny little Saquon receiving ladder together as well. And hopefully we can all cash that if Goddard comes through as well. Reminder, if you enjoy our primetime parlays, we've got these for you every single Thursday night. Dimers Pro, promo code podcast. You can get 50% off and see all of these player prop projections. Get the best bets hand delivered to you for every single Thursday night football game for the rest of the year.